Hi there, welcome to Unscripted. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are so happy to be back and we hope you're happy to see us back on air. I hope you're keeping safe, washing your hands, and of course remaining positive. Now, our first show today is very, very special. It's one phenomenal woman, and I'll start by sharing her quote. She says, "God has a way of refining someone." She likens the story to the mining and processing of diamonds. You have to dig deep and get dirty to find unrefined metal. You never think of the process diamonds went through when you see them on display. And she says, "I am that diamond." This lady is a super achiever, doctor, sits on many boards, a proud mom and a force to reckon with. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to meet our amazing guest, Dr. Stella Bosire. Let the show begin. Hi there, welcome to Unscripted. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's a pleasure to be back. I had truly missed you all. I hope you'd missed us. We're still maintaining social distance as much as we can, so I'm a bit far from my guest today, but it's a pleasure meeting you, Stella. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you.
You are a phenomenal woman. Your story is amazing. It's inspired me. I'm sure it will inspire many at home. But let's start from just, I guess, the current season. First, Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to you too, Grace.
How was it for you, and what does that day signify for you? Before we get into your story in relation to your mother and just what she went through in raising you and her story, and now you as a mom of a 6-year-old, what does that day signify for you?
I think not just the day, it's the whole being motherhood, you know, yes. being a mother, yeah. And motherhood is resilience, you know. It's waking up in the morning and looking at your little people and thinking about what best to do to make their lives better.
That's true.
Motherhood is literally struggling and through the ups and downs of life to be able to ensure that your children have the best.
That's true.
Motherhood is holding families together. Motherhood is the pillar that literally holds the society together. Motherhood is just amazing. And I woke up to TJ's kisses on my face, reminding me how pretty I am and telling me that I am the best mother and the most beautiful mother on the whole of this earth. It was beautiful. It was amazing, yes.
So tell us about where you grew up, your memories of your childhood. Let us know more about Stella.
So I grew up in Katwekera in Kibera. I spent a better part of my childhood in the streets as a chokora. My mother struggled with a mental health illness, schizophrenia. And absentee dad on and off, and literally surviving. At the age of 11, I was taking care of my whole family. I had to feed my siblings, and I had to take care of my mom. And well, my mom also had better days, and those better days are my best memories. Particularly, we're reflecting right now around Mother's Day. My mom is the queen of mashakura.
Oh,
literally the queen of mashakura. She used to make this. She used to make skuma and pasua and waru, and then beat eggs inside. You know,
wow.
Then
inside.
Yes,
That's a new one.
Queen of mashakura. May her soul rest in eternal peace. But I would pay everything. I would give my kidney to have that meal right now. Because it was not we didn't have a lot of such meals because of the struggles. But when we did, we ate together.
I see.
And when we did, we shared. And it wasn't just us. Yeah. She would go and bring other kids from the neighborhood, you know, the kids whose mother, maybe that day they didn't get a casual job of kufua or something, doing laundry, and there was so much love.
Oh,
so sometimes I tell people that it was a hardship, because I even had to sell drugs to keep my family afloat. And but there was so much love even in that. That to see a child recognize that an inability by her mom, but also taking up that role of motherhood. I took up a role of motherhood at 11, right? And I actually don't remember. Tell people I have no recollection of her playing with dolls. I don't even know what it means to hold a doll.
To be a child.
To be a child, right? To be a teenager who's throwing a tantrum. I don't.
Wow.
Because there was no time for throwing tantrums. If I didn't work, we didn't eat. And yeah.
How soon, what led to, so here is, you mentioned an absent father, your mom having schizo, mental health issues. And so when did this begin, and how does a child, you and your siblings, how do you cope with that? Do you even understand what's happening to mom? Why is dad not here?
There is no beginning. I have never seen Alice Nyambura, my mother, in any other state than this state she was in as a schizophrenic mother until her death. Wow. I don't have a comparison.
Different. I see.
I have memories of my mother in her bad episodes, in worse episodes, her running around naked, speaking to herself, what you call hallucinations, speaking to unseen people. I have memories of that, and that to me is a mother. So I remember when I went to high school and people were speaking about their mothers and telling their mothers about their first periods, you know, menstrual period. I didn't even know what that was. Wow. I didn't even know what it was to write a letter to my mother. Yeah, but I taught my mom how to read, and there are things which I don't know. I don't until now.
I see.
Yes, because to me was the normal. That's having a schizophrenic mother. Having people, I mean, of course, the society, they are also not everyone is good. Labeling her mama mwenda wazimu, cheesy. You know, I remember being told, when mtoto wa wazimu, when mtoto wa cheesy. That's cheesy to me. Yeah, a lot of stigma. You know, that cheesy to me was my mother.
That's your mother.
Yeah.
So two things. At what point did you figure out, did you know mom is unwell, or figure out what this is? And also, who stepped in? Because you said you were done to teach your mom how to read and write.
Yeah.
So that means you continued with school. How were you able to do all that?
Naming the disease, the psychiatric disease, I named it in medical school 3rd year.
I see.
In a psychiatric class, lecture.
That's when it clicked.
I was like, whoa, hallucination, unkempt. You know, like I ticked those boxes in a class, and I named it then. I knew my mom was different, and the difference was comparing with the other mothers in Katwekera or around the streets. That's how I knew my mom, but I didn't know this difference. I couldn't label it. I couldn't name what that difference was. And only when I was older and in medical school in 2010, 3rd year, that's when I named it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who stepped in? How were you able to continue with school?
I
put food on the table.
Because of being involved in drugs very young, I was expelled from school.
Yikes.
By this universe and hurtful teachers. I had 2 teachers who stepped in and pleaded with the administration for my school, and they allowed me to sit in for my KCP.
Oh, fantastic.
And I say from there, it's history. I put the school on the map.
Oh,
we went I was called to State House Girls. Yeah. They still came in. I remember Mr. Yusuf bought me a blouse and a shirt, like literally a man shirt, like we're supposed to have, you know.
Yeah.
He brought me a shirt, a white, but you know what?
He brought what he could.
He brought what he could.
Yeah.
I had my own version of jungle green skirt because that was what was picked by my teachers from Toy Market. Yeah. But I walked to State House.
Oh, wow.
They fundraised for me to go to school.
Oh, wow.
When I walked into this school for the first time, Grace, I slept on a bed, alone, with my own beddings. I had breakfast provided, which I didn't provide. I had lunch, which I didn't work for. I had dinner. And State was this school that really over-provided. We had chapels, we had beef. Like I had beef twice in a week. Like, whoa, I was in a hotel. Like, honestly,
it felt like a dream.
I hated midterms for that one reason.
Una miss nyama?
Nina miss chakula, nina miss kitanda yangu, because I would go back to sharing a bed with bed bags and everything. Yeah. And here was luxury to me.
How was that change like for you?
It was culture shock.
I can imagine.
Yeah. The first time we went to the dining hall, the first week, because we also, I mean, we had my schoolmates come from different backgrounds. People would look at bread and say, I don't feel like. I have never in my life had somebody say, I don't feel like bread. Like, you gotta be kidding me, Grace. Man,
how?
Like, bring it here. Like,
I'll have
I would eat like 10 slices for breakfast, and even keep more for break time, because people, we had a tuck shop. Guys would go and buy crisps. I didn't have that money, so my bread here or the egg would be what I'd carry.
Good.
Yeah,
and nothing would go to waste.
My goodness. Good. How can someone say I can't eat loaf? I still don't understand that concept until now.
But how was, and because you went to State House?
Yes,
your siblings this time are younger than you?
Yes.
So they're staying at home?
Yeah.
How was it going back home to them and them looking up to their sister? How did the dynamics change in the home?
First I became more stable in State House.
Okay. Funny
enough, I'm an entrepreneur. I started washing my schoolmates' clothes for them, and they paid me.
Oh, to earn money?
To earn money to send back home. Oh, I made a friendship with one of our guards who came from Lindi. Lindi is an adjacent village to Katwekera, not so far. And I would send money back home.
Oh, wow.
So it was also a different way. I wasn't going to Langata, I wasn't selling drugs, but I was making gainful earnings legally, and I was taking care of my siblings. So they still went to school. They still ate. My mom was still fine, and that to me was a blessing also. State House was a huge blessing to me.
Oh, we thank God. We thank God for, it really does take a village, and teachers stepping in, and look at you now and what they were part of the story.
Yes.
But take me back to the low moment of having to, you look at your family and you can see that their needs need to be met. Mom can't do it. You don't know where dad is. How did you end up drug peddling?
In informal settlement area, kids are exposed to these drugs very early. So I started first by being a consumer.
Got it.
And then as I was buying, I wondered how much people make, you know, like I needed to feed my family. So I started fast peddling, small, already rolled.
Okay.
And I realized I could actually do it. I could be a supplier.
Oh, wow.
So I started getting my own consignments and rolling and then supplying.
You're at how old now? At 11?
11, 12.
11, 12.
Yeah. Because I went to State House at just after I became 14.
Look at that.
And that I did then.
Were there dangerous moments? Were you afraid? How was that experience like for you?
Within that time, I was gang raped twice. And I was sexually abused multiple times by the people who I sold drugs to, who bought my drugs. Yeah. So there was also that. Reflecting right now back, perhaps it's just that I couldn't name it. Maybe even suicidal ideation might have crossed through my mind. You're living dead. You're struggling to raise a family. You're struggling to provide. And there are all these atrocities against you. I lost my virginity in a rape.
Oh, no.
No girl wants to do that. You know, like to me, and to any woman, like sexual violence is traumatizing.
It is.
And repeated sexual violence, extremely traumatizing. And to go through that as a young woman was difficult.
I'm so sorry. How do you get to a place of healing and I feel like there's so many layers there, Stella.
Yeah.
Having to rise up to the occasion and grow up and be a mom and you're a child. Yeah. So losing your childhood, your innocence, how does one get to that place of healing? And I heard you mention, I don't know if I got it right, that to date there's still some things you don't know because you can only learn some things from a mom but you didn't have that. How has been your journey to...
So I have two ways in which I have been finding my healing. May I also mention that the healing is a process. It's not a destination, it's a journey.
Tweetable, tweet that, that's true.
It cannot be a moment. It cannot be, I'm healed.
Here.
I am here, I am healed. It's every single day. Yeah. We will have stresses, micro traumas that will remind you of moments.
That's true.
I struggled a lot in getting in relationships because of if somebody held my hand forcefully it would take me back to those moments around somebody pinning me down, right? And And the other thing is also, I speak a lot about that experience because it also removed that burden from me. The first layer that I had to work on around myself was shame. The shame that, and it's shame particularly around sexual violence and also surviving drug abuse that really pulls people back into that. And if you speak about it, so I handle shame. So as part of my process of healing, of handling shame, I speak to women, I speak to girls who've gone through the experience, I speak to teenagers, and I let them know that the moment was shameful, but their life does not have to be shameful, that they can live robust, holistic, high quality, happy lives despite that. And they can find love, they can build relationships. And there are people who don't judge you based on a traumatic or multiple traumatic experience that you've gone through, that whatever spiritual beliefs that you have, that the universe and God has a way of remolding you back. And I think for me to be whole, because I'm whole physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, is my belief through that whole process of continuous healing.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Very, very proud of you. And on that note, we'll take a short break and continue with this amazing conversation. Just stay right there. Just stay right there. You can wash your hands and come back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned. Stella, thank you for sharing your story with us. Before the break, we were talking about just your healing journey. But before that, you mentioned how God was gracious and you found yourself as State House girls and you were doing very, very well. And funny enough, I need to ask this question. So Dad, as you were growing up, was absent, in and out. Though somehow, when you got to State House girls, he came and he was supportive. So I want to talk about that dynamic of, can that affect in terms of daddy issues? How was that like for you? Did that affect you that all of a sudden now you're here? And also, was that good for you? Take me through that.
So when he had, I did very well. He showed up. But he showed up with Form 1. He came and he paid my Form 1, Term 1 fees. That's the amount of money my father, Term 1, half of it.
Okay.
And I'm grateful because maybe I would have been sent back home. And of course, the rest of my high school was paid by scholarships, bursaries, and PTAs for the school. Any opportunity that the State House had in terms of supporting children from poor people, and we were a handful of us, I was among the beneficiaries. So he never paid fees again. When you asked,
help the relationship?
At that moment, there was somebody I called a father who paid half of my fees, and I was grateful. There was no relationship.
There wasn't.
There was no relationship. You know, when you ask about my reflections around motherhood, there is one thing around motherhood that is also very powerful. It's forgiveness.
Amen.
I say this because when I look back at when I was going through therapy and I was speaking about my sexual violence, the one repeating, because the first person who ever raped me was his sister's son. His nephew, my dad's sister's son.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
So your cousin?
My cousin. Okay. And I kept asking myself, where was he? Why wouldn't he be there? Exactly. Why did he just leave us like that, you know?
He protected you.
He should have protected me. So dealing with that, because I kept wondering if he was there, would I have been gang raped? Would I have been in the streets? I kept asking so many questions, right? And then part of healing was also looking existential and just saying that he had a role to play. I mean, legally, a parent's profession, not just profession, but also protecting the children. And a lot of that was lacking. And right now, as a mother, I look at this old man and I can't be angry. I can only forgive. I can only support him, and I've been supporting him. And I tell people, the then and the now, and they say, you support your father. I say, I do support him in all the ways possible. And he has a different family, but the power to me is being able to no longer blame and hate and despise, and to transform that into something different. Because when I hate, when I despise, it's like putting coal on my head.
You're hurting yourself.
And I'm hurting myself, expecting him to hurt. And I can't show love to my son when I have all that burden in me. I can't show love to another person. But then it also does affect the relationships that we have with people, particularly of that gender. Yes. I have struggled so much around trust with men. I have struggled so much around believing men. I am divorced, and this is the first time perhaps actually this is the first time I'm putting it publicly.
Saying it out loud.
Yes, saying it loud. And while there are other challenges within the relationship, that a lot of it reminded me of that relationship between my father and my mother, the abuse, it literally replayed back, and I find it very difficult. And I'm going through therapy, and I'm really grateful that I have people around me, I have a partner around me that trusts and knows that this is a struggle that I'm going through. But it's not, again, as I said, it cannot be a pop moment. It's a journey. So that journey of trust, journey of building into that's something. And thankfully to motherhood, it's teaching me to let go and to heal. Maybe not as fast,
you're learning through being a mother.
Being a mom, that there are things I'm reflecting on me as a mom, and I'm like, I don't need to carry this kind of burden. I don't need to I don't need to have this. I need change. I need love, I need abundance, I need to bring my best, but I have low moments, Grace. I have low moments around men. I have low moments around the traumas. That
what are your lowest? Or if you could describe a low moment, what's that like?
Hate. Despise. That I see somebody, and then I get this stressors when I hear a man has beaten a woman, because I saw my mom being beaten. We buried my mom without teeth, she had a scar on her head, because of domestic violence. And those moments take me back deep into those dark moments growing up. And it's a thing, it makes me really angry. But then I also remind myself also that there are good men.
That's true.
There are actually good men out here. They are supportive men. They are men who hold women's hands and protect them, right? And that's why for me, even my work around gender, I keep saying the biggest ally to be on the table has to be the man. That's true. Because the man will call another man out when they are beating their women, when they are raping, they will call them out, right? Because they say this gender does not represent that. That's true. That we have to stop this. But aside from that, I have learned to really exist even among these men and to even love them.
That's powerful. I mean, ultimately, we all need each other. That thing of I am fine all by myself, but can do this by myself is a facade. We all need each other and support each other. And there are good men, like you're saying. And even those who are struggling, I have to say this, doesn't mean they're bad. There's an underlying issue that they're dealing with. And unfortunately, it's projected as they're being violent or they're being alcoholics. And we all need to get to a point of being sensitive and empathetic, and how can we help them, and even them get to a point of, okay, even me have an issue, let me deal with it. So thank you for sharing that. And I think emphasizing on the importance of, I like that you're seeing someone for help, that you're talking to a counselor through this, because especially for women, if not all, most of us all have daddy issues that we need, and they affect us for a long time if we don't deal with them. So thank you for highlighting that.
And I keep saying, people don't go for therapy because they're sick. I mean, there's also a lot of stigma around therapy.
Exactly.
Just go in and
just have a conversation.
Have a conversation. Speak about the things, like speaking to a mirror. Speak about the things you would not necessarily tell everyone. Exactly. And you will actually find healing or find a process of managing better.
That's true.
Yes. And I would encourage everyone to have a therapist.
I agree. Yes. I'm with you on that.
Yes.
So going back to school, daddy shows up and is supportive in that season, even though for a period, and we thank God for that. You also had challenges while in school, and you had to do certain things to get by. Take me through what led to that.
I go to this new school. My first menstrual periods, I used an old mattress I had carried from home and socks.
Wow. You didn't have any access to pads?
I didn't have access to, I didn't even know,
Did you know what was happening to your body?
I did understand all that.
Okay, great.
But between, I was in Kachokera, between feeding and buying pads,
I tell you.
You get
so
little
sad
money,
how you have to decide.
You know? And unfortunately, that's a story of a lot of poor families, even to young girls, that will I buy sanitary towels? Will I eat? Will I, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, because I was the provider, that was it.
I see.
You know? And going to this school where people had multiple, always, I discovered there are different types of, for example, and always, you know, with wings, without wings, you know. And there I was with my mattress and socks, and I didn't carry even toothpaste. I brushed, for a long time, I brushed my teeth using salts. And tiny things like those ones made me it visibilized the differences between me and the other children. And I had to look for a way to be able to survive that. And when, I had been washing clothes anyway in Langata for money. I started a small business there. And
right in school?
In school.
What would you do?
People would book me to do their laundry, and they would pay me per bucket 150 shillings.
No way.
And I became stinking rich. Like I became a thousandaire in high school, you know. And I would send money back home, and I would afford always, you know. I would afford Colgate, any toothpaste. Like I'd have crisps. I would walk into the tuck shop and buy gum. Oh, wow. We'd go for Funkies and at least afford fries, you know, chips, and tiny things like those ones as a child meant a lot, yeah. And then I finished high school, and I've done so well. And I go back to the
What did you get?
I'm a doctor, I can only be direct. Also growing up right now, I'm very careful around also glorifying academics.
That's true.
That's also another mistake that we've done. Is like there are different strengths.
That's true.
For me, it was academics.
Okay.
But I also played hockey. I played hockey, and at one point I also played hockey for the national team, and I'm very proud for those moments. So I finish high school and I go back. I go back to this environment, Kachwekera, and...
Did you know what next after finishing high school?
I knew very well that I've always wanted to be a doctor. Maybe I didn't mention that, Okay. In my head, I wanted to open up my mom's brain. I really wanted to know what is wrong in that head, you know?
It's your mom's condition that led you to...
It was my mom's medical issues, then later on discovered, that really made me want to become a neurosurgeon. Like I was those kids, what do you want to become? A neurosurgeon. Why? I want to open her brain, you know, to fix whatever was broken in there. Anyway, schizophrenia is not an organic disease that you can go in and fix. It's not a tumor, you know. And so I go back home. I bid for these scholarships. I'm told about these scholarships when I'm in State House in the US. I apply for 4. I'm taken in 4 universities. Now I have choice.
You accepted in 4 universities?
4 universities. And then there goes another obstacle. Like, I need a passport. I need to apply for a visa. I discovered that I needed so many papers. And yet I didn't even have a birth certificate.
And is there anyone to guide you or help you
how to
do this?
Me, speaking to people. And I was told the first thing that you need before you even get a passport is you need to get a birth certificate, you know. And I asked my mom, where was I born? One day she told me Pumwani. I went to Pumwani. I did not exist. Langata, I did not exist anywhere. I could not be traced. So luckily enough, I had a very good chief who guided me. My church gave me a baptism card. I got baptized. Those are the papers that really helped me. But then I needed money to even apply for a passport. So I go to my counselor and I tell him, I need help. And then this man looks at me and sexualizes me, a child, and says, oh, I will even say it the way he said, because I've never forgotten. He said, Pirima dongo dongo. Mombasa. I translate, is that your ass which is big? Take me to Mombasa, I will make it happen.
He told you that to your face?
He told me that to my face, Grace. And I sat there and I thought about it. And I said, I'm not going to do this. And I lost the opportunities. And that's how I ended up being a nanny, a house girl. And but this universe, if the universe wants something good, it will find you. In that very house is how I knew about the Rita Levi Montalcini Foundation scholarships. And that's how I got those scholarships. And the rest is history.
So you're here working as a nanny?
Yes.
Someone's home? And then
I start teaching her children maths.
I love it.
And that's when she discovers about me. Like literally, I'm not paying you. Her kids are doing so well. So the teachers in school think that she has a tutor. And they say, no, it's Auntie Stella who's teaching us. And she asks me one day, she tells me, I want to speak to you after the kids went to bed. Tell me about you. Say, oh, I'm from Katwekera, and that's it. Because I was a referral to her home.
I see.
And she tells me, no, tell me about where do you go to school. I didn't want to expose so much because she was paying me 3,500. I was rich.
So what, you were worried that
I was worried that I was going to lose my income. And she tells me, just tell me. So I told her I went to State House. These were my grades. And she sat there and she was tongue-tied.
Imagine.
And she told me, go and bring me your papers. I didn't even have originals from State House by then. Because even if I was being supported, there was a little amount of money that I needed to pay. My parents needed to pay about 5,000, so I owed the school about 26,000.
I see.
But the storekeeper was graceful enough to actually take my originals and do photocopies for me.
Oh, bless.
And that's what I worked with. And I took to Mama Brian. She looked at me and fired me. Yes, she did fire me.
Fire you that should be a cliffhanger. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back and let's hear what happened with Mama Brian. Stay right there. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Stella, your story is just so riveting, if I could use that word. We can go on and on and on. So here we are, we're in school, and you finished school rather. It's time to go to university. You know you want to study medicine, and then someone discovers you where you're taking care of her children. Tell us what Mama Brian did when you finally got hands to the paper.
When she fired me, I remember the one thing she asked from me is that I give her a phone number of somebody near me because I didn't have her phone.
But you fired on what grounds? Why is she firing you?
Because she said you cannot be my nanny when you have your A's in my house. You can't.
I can't upside their VP. You can't just fire someone.
I know, but aliponiachisha hiyo kazi, that time, UN Habitat and the Kenya something slum upgrading thing was happening. So they were trying to upgrade the houses for the slum. Hizo nyumba za high rise. And they needed somebody who would be like a coordinator. So she's the one who brought me that work. She didn't bring me the work, she told me about the opportunity. So nikaenda interview. Interview, najua, of course I know the whole village, I know the whole Kibera landscape, and I speak multiple, I'm multilingual. And I was just the fit that they needed.
I see.
That was my first formal employment, right?
How was that moment for you?
Oh my God, I have never held such money. One day we were given an allowance, almost 100K. Like money is money. Like they would keep money and then give you.
Yeah.
I put money in socks. Nikakanyaga na viatu rabas nikaeka huko. Yani nikalo mpaka kwa makiti. As like nilikuwa natembea na filika kila mtu ananinusia, ananusa hiyo do yangu. As like
lazy.
The first thing I did was build my mama house with part of that money. Like nilienda nikeka structure. Mama yangu akwa na nyumba, nikaweka structure, nikasema this is it. Then within time I applied for the scholarship. She told me also about the Rita Levi Montalcini Foundation scholarship that takes women in Africa, a handful of us, for science and science related courses, right? And I bid for that scholarship and I got it.
Well done.
And I went to the University of Nairobi and I started my medical career. It was, man, the first time I'm in the university and doing what I've always wanted to do. So I'm going to open that brain for my mom. I knew I was going to open that brain. And she said, I told her, nimeanza university, akanambia miaka ngapi? Nikamwambia si mingi sana, ni 5. Akanambia, wow, Sarah, she used to call me Sarah. Hiyo miaka yote unaenda kusoma. So every year, like every 2 weeks in medical school, there was an exam. Okay. So I would tell her, niombe kuna mtihani. Hey, kuna swali niambia, na hizi mtihani zako haziishi. Unajua kwanza, that's how she used to say. And she would like, I also became part of her conversation with her, the people, the invisible people she used to speak to. And sometimes she just talked to them, mtoto anasoma mitihani mingi kabisa, halali, kila wakati tu anasoma, si kichwa yake taruka, you know. It's funny in a way because, I mean, again, that was my
That's
norm.
a memory you have.
That's a memory I have of my mother, me telling her about my stresses and challenges in medical school.
How was the journey like for you?
Medical school was interesting. I mean, brilliance of the brains were in that school. Yes. But then also I had responsibilities, and I was among them. I had responsibilities. Those who know me in med school know I was, again, an entrepreneur. I sold fish. I sold shoes. I sold dresses to, again, continue sustaining my family.
Your siblings? My siblings.
The scholarship was taking care of me as Stella, but I also needed to have extra. So that's how I ended up doing all that. In 2010, my mom became extremely ill, and she was diagnosed to have HIV. And we started the journey of her taking her medicines.
Oh, so she did?
She did. Okay. Unfortunately, because of also battling the mental illness, and the adherence was very poor. And in 2011, we buried her in September. She died of AIDS-related complications.
In that time, you're still studying in school?
I was actually doing my final exam in 4th year in 2011.
How did that take a toll on you?
Professor Ndavi walked in. I was given a patient. The morning she died, I was given a patient, and Professor Ndavi walks in, and my eyes are red and they are swollen. I forgot to wear my glasses. And he looks at me and says, "Why are your eyes red?" And I quickly brushed him and I told him, "I'm emotionally unstable." And he stops my exams. He says, "I'm not going to examine an emotionally unstable student." And then I break down, and he asks what happened. I said, "My mom died this morning. I just want to finish this exam and go home." And he said, "Even if I will call who, you will not sit for this exam. Call the chair of the department." It was then Professor Kwegi Kamau. Called Dr. Ann Kihara, who was also a coordinator, and other lecturers, and they spoke to me. Called Professor Ndwati, and they told me, go do what needs to be done, you know. And when you're ready for the exams, we'll always be here. You're one of our brilliant students, right? If you look at my track, I had already had A's in OBGYN, so they were not worried about continue, like we will. They spoke to, then the VC was Professor Magoha, and there was a lot of flexibilities for me, and I traveled home, moved my mom's body from KTRH, which is Teaching and Referral Hospital, to a private morgue. These very lecturers were gracious enough to fundraise very quickly to give me money, you know.
So they supported you?
They supported me in terms of finances, but I had two amazing friends. I will forever hold them in my heart. Angela Nyamu, she's also a doctor, and Dr. Catherine Kwamboka. These two friends of mine walked with me throughout this whole journey. In fact, one of the greatest memories we have is us going to the market to buy a cow for funeral. Like, we are three girls from Nairobi in the middle of a cattle, to figure it out. So we are seeing people hitting the cows. Like, okay, let's also hit this one. What are they looking for, you know? And we buried her. She rested.
She rests in peace.
And I'm glad that we are having this conversation around motherhood. And
how are you honoring her today, Stella?
I am honoring her by raising a child better, to be a person who in this society will not be a nuisance. I'm raising a child who has learned gratitude very young. I'm raising a child who knows what sharing means, because my mom was interesting. Like, I'm working so hard selling clothes there. I do shopping for her. The following day, she has like a counselor. Wamama umepanga foleni. They are there. They are sitting, waiting for her. She's there with her cup, sugar, 1 cup. I look at this woman. I would wonder. I've given everything. She's like, you know, I have you. I have you. Meaning, God will always provide. They don't have a Stella in their lives, and those are the principles I'm raising my son on. Sharing, caring, generosity, respect, forgiveness. That, can you imagine, Grace, even despite everything that my dad and the dynamic of their relationship, there's one thing Alice, my mom, taught me even in her mental wellness. She said, never, ever talk back to your father. Never disrespect him. It doesn't matter, he's still your father.
That's true.
And until now, if you speak to Christopher, he will tell you, I have never talked back to him, I've never disrespected him. Even when I've had the need to say something hurtful, I have never.
You've held it back.
And those are the principles, those are the philosophies I'm raising my son on.
Well done, Mom.
Thank you.
I have to ask, though, after all that you've experienced and all that you've gone through, to be this woman you are today, Daktari, mom, what does that title mean to you, Dr. Bosire? When you look back at where you've come from, us were in amazement. You, when you look back and where you've come from, what thoughts run through your mind? What emotions do you feel?
It's a mix.
Is it surreal?
It's a mix of emotions. But let me tell you how I bring back myself to that now.
Yeah.
You see, it's chicken.
Yeah, chicken.
Slaughtered chicken, like chicken. I like kienyeji chicken. Every time I slaughter
kienyeji
chicken,
is the best.
Every time I buy slaughtered chicken, please don't take away the head, the neck, and the feet.
Unazitaka?
Ninazitaka na nazikula. Like even Faith in my house knows. Like we'll have every good part, but my plate will have the head, the neck, and the feet. Because it's a symbolic. It keeps reminding me of where I came from, the humility, because then that was chicken to me. And where I am, I'm in a place of abundance, but also reminding me that not everyone lives in abundance.
That's true.
That there's an opportunity to change things in the ways that I can professionally or not professionally, and I can transform people's lives. But I also, then and now, Chris, is nothing impossible as long as the sun rises from the east and sets on the west.
Amen.
There is nothing on this earth which is impossible. All you need to do is just be focused. Have that focus.
Amen.
And as a mother, and this is just to sum this up, sometimes you sit and look at your children and you don't know the next meal where it's going to come from.
Especially now in a time of uncertainty. Yes.
People have lost their jobs. Mothers have lost their jobs. They don't know where rent is going to come from. This is it.
What can you tell them?
Joy comes in the morning. That even in this pandemic, it will pass. Motherhood teaches you resilience. You are a resilient person. That even as you worry about all this that is happening, you will survive. And in that survival next year, you will talk about this year that was.
Amen.
And you will see your children. They will succeed. They will be disciplined. They will have hearts of gratitude. They'll just be amazing people. And then your jobs will be back.
They will.
And the economy will stabilize. It's just a matter of time. And this is what I say. It's just time.
Just a matter of time.
Don't give up.
Hang in there.
Hang in there, and happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. And I believe we will look back 2020 and say thank you, Father, somehow. That you're still alive and breathing. I think the lesson here, and the fact that you still have breath in your lungs, and you've been given a chance to another day, you can be another doctor, Stella Bosire, or lawyer, or designer, whatever your dream is,
yes,
it shall come to pass.
It shall come to pass.
Thank you for inspiring us today. I needed this. At home, I hope you needed this and you feel much better, regardless of what's happening in your house, in the world. I hope today you felt a little lighter, a little happier, because if she can do it, so can you. Thank you so much for staying with us, for watching Unscripted. We're happy to be back. I hope you're staying safe, working from home if you can, and washing your hands as much as you can, and just staying hopeful. I think the lesson learned today is just stay hopeful. It's going to get better. It's going to be okay. Until next week, goodbye and God bless. And thank you. And happy Mother's Day again and everything. I'll just keep going, so bye. Let's just roll the credits.